G'day, welcome to Stu's Shed. Just recently I wrote an article for the Shed magazine, which is a New Zealand publication that's now in Australasia, and it was specifically about using the router to make a bowl. Normally we make bowls on the lathe. They're obviously by default therefore round, and what I wanted to do was actually demonstrate that not only do you not need a lathe, but bowls don't have to be round. They can be any shape you want. And what I created was out of this block of wood was this here, which was actually a test bowl, just to try out the jig and try out the router bits before I actually got into it properly. And I'm very pleased with the result. It worked out very well. And then I went on and actually made the proper bowl out of another block that I'd glued up. However, just thinking today it would be a really good thing to actually finish off the complementary bowl for this one. There's actually two bowls, they interlock each other. And actually, as much as anything, to show you these router bits. These are the Amana Tool bowl making bits. There's a couple of sizes here. The smaller one obviously for a finer detail, and today I'll be using this larger one here because it can really scallop out a lot of material quite quickly. Very nice thing about the bowl bits, not only do they have a nice radius, so the inside bottom edge of your bowl just has that nice detail there, but they've got a big flat surface there as well, which obviously lets you get right into the base and flatten the base out very quickly, very easily. Now the bowl router bit is an inverted router bit, which means that instead of having the bearing at the top, in this case the bearing's at the bottom. And what that means is it can be used in inverted fashion, funnily enough, and the bearing follows your template while your router bit is actually removing your material. Now, it doesn't mean that your bowl can only be that deep. In this case, it looks like about 3/4 of an inch. But that's not the depth of the bowl that you can create with this bit. After you've passed the router bit's gone through and finished doing the running around the template, you've got parallel sides here, and that means you can just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And the limitation for how deep you can go is not on the router bit. It's actually how much plunge can you get out of your router, and that is actually the defining factor about just how deep a bowl you can make. Now you can go into extension bits and things like that. In this case, I haven't bothered. The bowl here is going to be well and truly deep enough for my purposes, just straight from the router. And in this case, I don't know. It could be a bowl for nuts. It could be a bowl for sorting out wood screws, or could be one that just looks after your router bits when you don't have them in use, but they're out of your rack so they don't fall onto the floor. So there's all sorts of reasons why you can make yourself wooden bowls, and because you're not limited by shape, you can make a bowl that actually suits the purpose that you wanted, or in this case, a bit of an artistic form. Now, the template that I've created for this is this one here, and it was very much a freehand, free form if you like. I started with the concept of a sort of a yin-yang type idea, but then I decided to go a bit more organic with it, and that's where I came up with this sort of shape. You can come up with whatever you like. You can come up with things that are themed for the season if you like. You can make a bit of a Christmas tree for Christmas, funnily enough. You can make a bunny shape for Easter bunnies, and for the kids when they want to collect their Easter eggs. Choose a season, choose a theme, and you can make a template. And it's just cut out, in this case again, freehand on the bandsaw. You'll see there's a couple of slots there, which is how I've got the bandsaw blade into the cut. And that doesn't affect this template because I just put a couple of screws on either side, or a screw either side of the cut just to stabilise the cut, and the router bearing will run over that surface without any issues whatsoever. Now what I've done here is I've taken a couple of pieces of camphor laurel. Camphor laurel's one of those trees that seems to have a love-hate relationship. Certainly with local councils, they consider it a weed, and the rest of us think that it's got some, really beautiful character in it. So as much as the councils want to chop it down, we'll scavenge as much as we can, because it produces some really nice pieces. And as you can see here, it's a combination of some really dark features and lighter timbers as well. And yeah, while it's growing as a weed, and it's quite prolific like that, and we'll keep getting a nice supply of timber. And yeah, it's got the other little advantage that while you're routing with it, your sinuses are getting cleared very quickly, because of course the camphor oil is rather potent. Look, it's a beautiful timber to work with. That's a nice smell for those who enjoy that, the aroma of it. Yeah, look, it's just a nice timber to work with. You'll see that I've got some Forstner bits out. The purpose of those will become obvious very shortly. So I'm just going to lock this down onto the table. I'm just using the Festool surface clamps. Now normally when you did this, you wouldn't do one bowl and then come back later on and do a second bowl. I actually didn't intend to do a second bowl specifically. I thought I might get around to it, but this piece was specifically done just as a test to see how everything worked out. And as I said, I went from this to then the final production piece. But it's a perfectly good bit of timber sitting right there waiting to be used, so we might as well come back and do this job. So that's locked down onto the table very securely. Now I've already drilled the holes in the template and recessed them. In this case I used this, which again is from ToolsToday.com, and it's the Amana Tool No Mar countersink. Now the no mar aspect of it is because, again, like a lot of the stuff that they're producing, they're putting bearings where they really should be putting bearings. In this case, the depth stop has got a bearing in behind it, and so when this plunges into the workpiece, particularly like in this case, it doesn't matter, I'm running on MDF, so it doesn't matter if I burnt the surface, but there's no point having the depth stop spinning at the speed of the drill. So once it goes to full depth, the depth stop then stops on the work and it doesn't spin at all, and the drill bit will continue to spin and the countersink will therefore cut the hole. And that's why it's called a no mar countersink. Put that one in our handy little container. Done. Now the next step is, let's remove some of this bulk material. As much as you could probably force this router bit into the work, it would certainly struggle. It's not designed as a plunge router bit. It can do that to a certain extent because it does have that cutter on the bottom surface, but it's not its primary function. It's certainly not designed to do it. So what we'll do is actually use some Forstner bits here just to get rid of the bulk of the material from the middle, stuff we don't care about anyway, and then we'll leave it for the router bit to actually clean up the edge and clean up the base. Tell you what, I bet you wish you had smell-o-vision now. The aroma coming off this camphor laurel is absolutely superb. So there we go, sculpt away a lot of material, and we're ready now for the router bit to actually start to do the shaping. Now one other point to make is we specifically want to make sure that we run the router bit in a clockwise direction around the template when we're going down from above. The router bit, when you look at it from a cutting perspective, is running in an anti-clockwise direction. So when you push it down from above, that means that if you then run around the template in a clockwise direction, the router bit's always trying to cut against the direction you're pushing. Reason for that is quite simple. If you went the same direction as the router bit's trying to go, it will go. It's you're talking about a powerful router. In this case, it's a couple of horsepower and a nice big router bit. And if you went in the same direction, it would actually try to go. And that's the last thing you want to have happening with a router bit that's running 8, 10, 12,000 RPM. So in this case, because we're going into a template, we're going to cut it in a clockwise direction. Now, as you can see here, we've just sculpted away quite a bit of material and down to a reasonably consistent depth. That's not critical. Obviously there's a little bit of ridging there, but the main thing is that we haven't come right up against the edge of the template, but we're close, so the router is not going to have to try to remove too much of this waste material. So first pass, we obviously need to go deep enough for the bearing on the router bit to engage with the template. So I'm just going to set that initially, and then I'm locking off the plunge lock. Now, in this case, because I'm not plunging into the workpiece, and I've got these large areas that are completely already free of material, I can actually start the router already plunged to the right depth. Makes life a little bit easier. Now, if you didn't, in this case, have that, you could always use the plunge stop to control that. So this first pass, I'm just going to run around the template and start scalloping the material away, and then I'm just going to go a bit deeper and go on until we basically hit the bottom where I've drilled down to so far. I'm probably, and by the look of it, I'm right at the limit of the depth that the router can achieve. But that's only assuming that I leave the template in place. And as you'd suddenly realise, there's no need for the template now. I've gone deep enough now that the actual surface of the bowl down that I've cut so far is now effectively the template. And the router bit, the bearing, is not running on the template at all now. So we might as well lose it and gain ourselves an extra, well, as I said it was before, 9 mil extra capacity. So I'll take that off and we can keep on going. Now the last thing I'm just going to do is take this off here and go over to the bandsaw, and I'll just cut that shape out, just run around the edge, and then I'll come back over. Now back from the bandsaw, and this is what I'd have if I'd actually done this job all in one hit, is a couple of bowl shapes inside the blank, and in this case I would have cut down and actually right through and separated to two bowls. But if I get rid of all the waste material from around the outside, there we have a couple of bowls, you know, obviously an interrelated shape, but each one's quite unique in themselves. And from here on, I'll go over to the spindle sander to you know, actually smooth out the outside edges of this new bowl that we've just made. It's just come up very nicely, even so. I've gone for a very thin wall in this case. It's about a 2 to 3 mil wall thickness, just off the bandsaw, and then I can sand that down to quite thin as well. Now the base, it's just a matter of sanding the base and sanding these inside curves before applying the finish. So that's what you can do with the Amana Tool bowl bits from ToolsToday.com. And as I said earlier, as an inverted router bit, it allows you to actually plunge in through past the template into the workpiece and then have the bearing actually engage with the template to create your final shape, whatever that happens to be, and in this case, whatever shape that you want it to be.